Good Monday. I think we can just give up on Kent at this point. We've milked that cow completely dry. I mean, he has one video that came out Friday, and I will be having a look at it, though I haven't looked at it completely. This week, we have David Reeves Ministries, who, he seems to be broke, as they've resorted to begging for donations to keep going, while wearing nice suits, new tablets, several cameras, an entire office, plus a huge screen to use for comments and questions. FYI, my production value is a computer, a Logitech webcam, 2 throw blankets, a ring light, a $30 mic, and a fursuit. And I bought the suit before I even started this. I wasn't kidding when I said they were begging for money. Attached to this video we are going over is a Donate Now advertisement that says, and I quote, "After 15 years, we've become the most trusted name in biblical creation ministry." I find that hilarious.
You and me both.
Even funnier is that if they are so trusted, why does Kent Hovind have almost double the subscribers that they have? That means a convicted felon is more trusted than them.
Oh, harder, Daddy.
Oh, God. D-Man, really? Anyway, let's get into their video.
Can you tackle a question from one of our viewers?
Sure, love to.
All right, let's take a look.
So, I have a question. What would you say would be the best scientific evidence that points to a young Earth and that sort of shows the flaws in an old Earth theory?
There isn't any. Awesome. How much do you want to bet they completely dodged this question?
Stay tuned.
It's an interesting question. How do you address that?
So I actually, I think the question may have been better phrased to say, what's the best scientific evidence for an old Earth?
Called it. You see, young Earthers tend to do this kind of a thing. It's generally straw men, cherry picking, intentional misunderstanding, ignoring of evidence, or just plain stupidity. But let's see where he fails.
Because almost all the evidence we see is for a young Earth.
Going with the ignoring of evidence and intentional misunderstanding, I see. Keep going.
To me, it actually, this radiometric dating, if I make atheistic assumptions, would be the best evidence for an old Earth.
Atheistic assumptions, okay? Care to guess what he says those assumptions are? Now, Angel did cut him off mid-sentence, so to be as generous to this guy as possible, she will pick up right where he left off with no cut to what he's saying.
In other words, if I assume these decay rates have been constant, I assume but
assuming the decay rates have been constant. See what I mean? But here's the thing. For the Earth to be young, they would have to assume not only have the decay rates never been constant, but that the decay rates would have to fluctuate violently or to have been created in a state where they are in partial decay. Meaning his God would have created a deceptive world that appeared old when using radiometric dating. So to state that we assume the decay rates are constant as a flaw says they would rather assume their deity is being deceptive.
All the other evidence that we see would favor a young Earth, and many people have made many lists. There's close to 100 ways of dating the Earth. All end up being with a young Earth. I'll give the top 10.
I mean, he seems to be floundering around with this a lot. If I were doing an interview like this, a little prep would have been nice so the guest could feel more affluent in their response. But I would love to hear his top 10 bits of bullshit.
Let's do this.
People talk about just the amount of sediment on the seafloor. And we can measure how fast sediment goes in. We measure how fast sediment goes out. Limits the age of the Earth to much, much younger than the current stuff, 4.54 billion years.
This is just patently false. Sediment washes back and forth on the seafloor, sure, but the continental shifting and thrusting plates under one another shows this is incorrect. The best place to look for this is the Pacific Ocean, with a massive amount of sedimentary deposit down there. So this is a case of him ignoring evidence to suit his narrative. I could go on, but we've covered this in our previous videos.
Bent rock layers. You know, you have these rock layers, and I know you've been to the bottom of the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
You're down there, and they make S-curves.
So smoothly.
And it's bent, and you take that rock, and it'll just crumble between your fingers. There's no cracks in those rocks. It's a smooth bend, and so any people say, well, maybe rocks lifted up, others sunk down. Well, there's no cracking, which would have obviously happened if that had occurred. There's
it had to be still soft.
Yeah, it had to be soft. It had to
when
almost
it was
be laid
bent.
down. Yeah, and that
laid down rapidly.
And this is why we're going for this video. The curved rock layers. How do those form?
Pure angelic power.
No. So he is correct in saying the rock had to be soft, but it wasn't pure angelic power.
What? They say insane shit all the time. How was I supposed to know this one was true?
Yeah, but they're correct for the wrong reasons. You see, if these were done in a flood, it would have never formed in a bent way. And that is because of
gravity, you fucking retard! Gravity! Have you ever heard of fucking gravity? Gravity! Gravity!
Well, you didn't need to use that soundbite, but okay. Yes, it's gravity, because layers of sediment laid down by water will form smooth and need to be altered later. As sediment falls out of a medium, like water, the water holds that sediment fairly evenly. Something to try as an at-home experiment to show this. Get some salt, cold water, in a large container with a large surface area at the bottom. A storage bin will do just fine. It can be flat or not. All it doesn't matter is I'll go over both scenarios so you can try it both ways. Fill the container with water and then pour in the salt on one side. Agitate the water to get the salt mixed into the container so the water takes up most of the salt, leaving the rest suspended in the water. Now, let the water settle as best you can, so it is moving as little as possible. There will be some agitation, and that's okay. Now, walk away and leave the container alone. After a few hours, the salt that was not diluted in the water will have settled down to the bottom. If there is nothing at the bottom, you didn't put enough salt in. Add more and repeat the process with the same water. When you come back, if you have a container that is uneven at the bottom, you will see the salt has settled out at the lowest point, but evenly throughout those lowest points inside the container. If you have a smooth base, the salt will be even across the entire base. The only exception is if you create a vortex in a cylindrical container, and then only will the salt be mostly in the center. So try and do this with a square or rectangular container to prevent yourself from making a vortex. You can let all the water dry out, and all the salt will evenly coat the bottom, starting at the lowest points. Now, re-agitate the water, and the water will pick up the salt again, and once again it will sink evenly back to the bottom of the container. This is what will happen to the sediment to cause rock layers. The rocks are bent not because of water, but heat. The rock will get to the point where it is becoming like magma, and as tectonic or geothermic shifts occur, the rock will buckle and shift, and at times folding over onto itself deep underground.
We find soft tissue in fossils. I mean, it's hard to imagine how soft tissue even survived since the flood, but it apparently did, because we do find soft tissue in dinosaur bones and elsewhere.
But certainly not
millions of years. Exactly.
This is another one we tackled in a previous video. In short, the soft tissue we find is only very specific things. They make it out like it's a very common thing and we have large muscular structures or something, but what we find is on extremely rare occasions and under extremely specific circumstances. The occasional blood vessel or some very small bit of tissue that has been preserved. Nothing like when they're making it out to be. The clips they show are blatantly misleading.
Well, my boner's gone.
You fucking would, demon.
Strength of the Earth's magnetic field, the total energy, we can measure that. It's decaying rapidly, very consistent with a young Earth, completely inconsistent with a Earth that's billions of years old. The mechanisms for trying to create the magnetic field that would let it survive that long, they
like dynamos that recharge and all of this.
It's very, very contrived. Very, very, the odds of that happening. And then now we're finding magnetic fields throughout the solar system. And so again, it's just like you're taking almost impossible and then squaring it or cubing it or taking it to the fourth power.
Yep, we got to this one too in Kent's seminar. The funny thing here is the dynamo is inside the Earth. It is the Earth's core which is moving faster than the Earth itself. The magnetic field around the Earth flips on occasion, which is seen by the alignment of iron in the seafloor of the Atlantic Ocean as the continents separate. That flip is what helps recharge the magnetic field. Now, the core of the Earth doesn't flip, like Kent Hovind has said in the past, just the polarization. Curiously enough, the Earth is overdue for the magnetic polar shift, and it could happen in the near future. Also, curiously enough, the field strengthened back up a little bit recently, but is still weakening overall. Don't concern yourself with it. What you should be concerned about is the complete shift that will expose the Earth directly to a larger amount of cosmic radiation. It won't burn the planet or anything, but you will get some really, really bad sunburns from it in a much shorter amount of time. More like humanity will in the future after probably a few thousand years. Now, what I laugh about is they completely go word salad when it comes to even trying to do a short explanation for it by spitting out nonsense and big words that mean basically nothing. The next clip we're going to have is cut up. It's like 2 minutes long, and I can't really stand listening to these guys for more than a minute straight. I'm sure you can't either.
Helium in radioactive rocks, and that's one we can talk about. When uranium decays to lead, so you take uranium-238 decaying to lead-206, you actually produce 8 helium nuclei.
Okay.
And so say I take a zircon. If I look at a zircon and I assume that it was all uranium when that zircon first formed, and then I measure the uranium and the lead ratio inside that zircon, well, I can get an estimate for the age, but I have to know what the half-life was through that whole period of time.
Oh.
So that's one estimate. Well, if I assume the current half-life for uranium, that I get very old ages, like you said, billions of years. I can also measure how much helium is left in that zircon.
Okay.
And so I can look and say, well, how much helium, and I can measure how fast helium diffuses out of zircons, so I can use that as a method also of dating. It'd be like if we came in here and there was a helium balloon up in the ceiling, and someone said, well, that helium balloon, boy, it's here when we first built the building, and it's just stuck up there. Essentially, like, man, that's a really good balloon, or they got it wrong. And, because most, you really just average helium balloon, it's, a few days it's down on the floor.
Give it a week and it's on the floor.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so, so the same thing. We look at those zircons, and if they were really that old, we would expect that helium to be gone. But most of the helium's still there.
So he debunked himself. The helium retention he is talking about was a study done by RATE, which is short for radioisotopes and the age of the Earth. A young Earth group looking for evidence of a young Earth. So already they are going in and assuming a young Earth because that is what the leader, Andrew Snelling, tends to do. We have already had him on our channel before doing the exact same thing. In general, they looked for what they wanted to find and read the scopes the way they wanted to, and not the way they should. The helium diffusion rate depends on the actual crystal itself. Its size and location will cause massive variances in the diffusion rate itself, and thus ignored because the decay rate of uranium to lead is measured to be constant, and the only way for lead to get into zircon is through the decay of uranium already inside it in the first place. And with our subject for this week openly admitting that measuring the decay rate of the uranium getting a very, very old Earth, he's already admitted to the Earth is old. I love it when young Earthers do my work for me. I really feel I can end it here.
No, you don't get to end this.
Why would it make me mad? Oh, for fuck's sake! Really? Okay. Angel? So, why is carbon-14 dating such a sore subject for me? That's also correct. Good job! Anything else they say? Perfect. You're gonna make me happy cry. So, what does that all mean for the diamonds? I'm speechless. Angel, you are amazing.
No other demon can compare to the likes of I.
Well, yes. Angel is my favorite angel, and you are my favorite demon.
Wow, I feel so loved here.
You can take a question later then. How about that?
I'll get him next time.
Sounds good. For me, I am Corsi, and this is The Fluffy Atheist. Pet those like and subscribe buttons, and remember, a little research goes a long way. Let The Fluffy Atheist do it for you.